Now the British have it in black and white. The Kremlin interfered in the 2014 Scottish independence referendum. Members of the Intelligence and Security Committee also believe Russia intended to influence the Brexit referendum to help sow discord in the EU. But they say the government was not interested.
That no one in government knew if Russia interfered in or sought to influence the referendum because they did not want to know. The UK government have actively avoided looking for evidence that Russia interfered.
The report says that the 2014 referendum in Scotland, in which 55% of Scots voted against secession from the UK, was the first post-Soviet interference by Russia in a democratic election in the West. Russian influence is the new normal, says committee member Kevin Jones.
So the question is who is protecting the British public from interference in our democratic process? Well, in a nutshell, we found no one is.
Parliamentarians suspect that this is why Prime Minister Johnson delayed the publication of the report for so long. For years, British media have reported on the close ties between wealthy Russians and the Tory party, especially members of the House of Lords.
These relationships should be carefully scrutinised, given the potential for the Russian state to exploit them. There must be complete transparency about any links with Russian businesses at every level of politics. And we do not have that in respect of the House of Lords at present.
The committee calls for a full report on Russian election interference.
Well, let's get a political scientist to cast his eye over this. Anthony Glees is Emeritus Professor of Security and Intelligence Studies at the University of Buckingham in the UK. He joins me now from Oxford. Welcome to DW. This report says the UK government badly underestimated the threat from Russia and the response it required. Downing Street says the government was fully aware of the significant and enduring threat that Russia posed. Who do you believe?
Well, I think the government is in serious trouble tonight over this report. It needs to be pointed out, this isn't just any old group of politicians. This is a unique parliamentary intelligence and security oversight committee of very senior MPs who have direct access to the intelligence and security community. And what they say matters very seriously indeed. Now, you could argue that whatever a committee of MPs says to a government like Boris Johnson's, with a majority of 80 in Parliament, is not going to matter. But Boris Johnson's government has already got into trouble over China. His policy has had to be reversed, largely because of American pressure, but also because of conservative backbench pressure. So there is a suggestion that if the conservative backbenchers feel uncomfortable about this report, they won't accept what Boris Johnson has said, which is, yes, there was a problem in 2019, but no problem with the Brexit referendum.
But here's the thing, the UK has this massive security apparatus that we're often told is looked on with envy by other countries. So what does underestimating a threat from Russia look like?
Well, it's a very good question, and we know a little bit more today because the government has put up to make its case somebody who was Sir Mark Lyle Grant, who was the National Security Advisor under David Cameron and Theresa May. And people should remember, too, it's not just criticism of Boris Johnson over Russian interference in the December 2019 election. There's criticism over Russian interference in the Scottish independence referendum in 2014, as well, of course, as the Brexit referendum of 2016. So there's a lot in this. Now, the intelligence and security community are charged with keeping our political process safe. And on the face of it, they appear to have failed dismally. What we've been hearing from Sir Mark, the former National Security Advisor, is that what MI5 did do was identify 4 areas of concern, some foreign, like the Russians in Ukraine, like Crimea, like Syria, and then some domestic. And in domestic, what they identified was the use of Russian money to pay British influencers to try to get the Brexit vote to go in favour of Putin, and that is identified as being Putin's interest, the disintegration of the European Union and the disintegration of NATO. So those two things. Now, MI5, we're told, watched money changed hands, but did nothing further with it. So that is the big sting. You know, if MI5 watched the Russians hand over money, but then didn't inform Parliament, and the government, by its own admission, didn't ask to be informed, the question is begged, I think, of the lawfulness of the Brexit referendum result. And remember, it was a very small minority, 3.7% of votes made a difference in an in-out referendum.
Okay, so that is an argument that they are going to have to fight another day. I just want to quickly ask, should we presume that this is not just Russia doing it? Should we presume that Britain, the United States and others are also launching these sorts of attacks?
Of course, of course. The truth is, ever since 2016, Britain has become increasingly vulnerable. We've seen Britain under attack and being threatened by China. We've seen Britain under attack and being threatened by Putin. And we also see America throwing its way around. It's not coincidental that Secretary of State Pompeo came over in person at the beginning of the week in order to ensure that Britain would not honour its agreement to take Huawei 5G. We are in a very difficult place. We're very vulnerable in Britain. We don't have friends. We don't have friends in Europe right now. And that makes us, like all vulnerable people, open to abuse and aggression and an influence that we don't want.
Professor Anthony Glees, thank you so much.